This isn't a fairy tale. This is not some neat little story where kindness gets rewarded and villains get what they deserve. This is real. This is ugly. This is cruel. This is about Luke Miller, the boy with dirt under his fingernails, pride in his spine, and nothing in his pockets. They mocked his name. They spit on his dreams. They thought poverty was a curse and bloodlines were everything. They believed that because he came from a tired farmhouse at the edge of nowhere, he'd go nowhere. So they kicked him out. They humiliated him in front of everyone. They made sure, when he walked out of Westbridge Academy, he walked out alone, empty-handed and broken. But what they didn't know was that Luke didn't break. He hardened. And when the broken come back, they don't knock. They take the door off its hinges and set fire to the house. The cold wind stung Luke's cheeks as he walked out of Westbridge Academy, clutching his worn books like they might protect him from the shame gnawing at his ribs. His bag was torn, his jacket too thin. But his mind was sharp, his record spotless. He had been top of his class until today. He had been called to the office just after first period. Principal Whitmore sat behind a polished mahogany desk, eyes calculating, voice like winter frost. "You're being dismissed, Luke." Luke blinked, confused. "Why?" Whitmore didn't hesitate. "You don't fit here. Westbridge maintains a standard, and your background, unfortunately, doesn't reflect that. I'm the highest-ranked student, and you come from a family of farmers," Whitmore interrupted, lips curling. "That might impress in Wiltburn County, but this is Westbridge. Appearance matters here." Luke stood there, heart pounding, humiliation washing over him like dirty water. No warning, no hearing, just a signature, just silence. When he walked through the grand halls with his belongings, the laughter came quick and merciless, especially from Mason Greaves, the golden son of Westbridge. Rich, cruel, untouchable. "Well, well," Mason called across the hall, his voice full of fake sympathy. "Guess the scholarship fund finally ran out of pity." Luke didn't respond. He just kept walking, step by step, dagger by dagger, shame burning inside him like cold fire. Back home, his farmhouse stood tired beneath a cloudy sky. His mother's hands trembled as she saw him. His father, arms covered in mud, stood frozen on the porch. "They expelled you." Luke could barely speak. "They said we don't belong." His mother sat down on the steps, burying her face in her apron. His father looked up at the sky like he was searching for something lost. That night, Luke lay awake in the darkness, staring at the cracked ceiling above his bed. His heart ached. His body was still. His mind was full of glass and fire. "I did everything right," he whispered. "I gave them everything." But it was never about merit. It was about bloodlines, about power, about money. And he had none, not yet. The next morning, chaos shattered the calm. A black helicopter roared down from the clouds and landed directly on the pristine green lawn of Westbridge Academy. Teachers spilled out of the building, students screamed, phones went up to record. The door of the helicopter opened, and out stepped Samuel Kingston, CEO of Kingston Enterprises, billionaire, king of the agricultural empire, a man who had more land than the state itself. He didn't glance at the faculty. He didn't shake hands. He looked directly into the crowd and said, loud and clear, "Where is Luke Miller?" Gasps, murmurs, every head turned. Principal Whitmore went pale. Luke was in the middle of cleaning the horse stalls when the thundering rotors returned. He shielded his eyes as the helicopter landed beside the barn. Dust exploded across the yard. Out stepped Samuel Kingston, dressed in a black coat, his expression sharp as steel. He walked right up to Luke. "I knew your father," Kingston said. "Years ago, during the drought, he saved my land. Never asked for anything." He paused. "And now they've tossed his son aside like trash. I don't forget debts, Luke." Luke said nothing, still catching up. Kingston's voice turned cold. "You don't belong in that school. You belong above it. Come with me. Let's make them regret everything." When they returned, Westbridge went silent. Luke stepped off the helicopter in a tailored coat, beside the man who could buy and sell the entire school board. The students froze. Even Mason stopped talking. Principal Whitmore came running, panic behind his thin smile. "Mr. Kingston, this is unexpected." Kingston raised a hand. "You expelled a boy who outperformed your entire student body because his boots had mud on them, because you couldn't see past your own pathetic biases." He pulled out a folder. "I'm offering Westbridge a $10 million endowment. State-of-the-art labs, new scholarships, new wings." The crowd leaned in, hungry. "But," Kingston said, voice like a knife, "you only get it if Luke Miller is reinstated, with a public apology." Principal Whitmore swallowed his pride and nodded stiffly. "I apologize, Luke. You're welcome back to Westbridge." But Luke didn't speak. Kingston turned to him. "You can stay here or come with me. You've seen what they are. I'll show you what you could become." Luke looked over the faces that had laughed at him, then looked toward the sky. "I'm coming with you." Kingston's estate wasn't a mansion. It was a fortress carved into stone and steel, standing above the ocean like it ruled the tides. "You're still a boy," Kingston said that night. "We'll fix that." Luke trained for months, not in combat, in power. He learned corporate warfare, psychological warfare, negotiation, deception, silence. He was molded by former diplomats, ex-agents, political tacticians. His voice became steady, his face unreadable, his presence undeniable. He didn't forget Westbridge. He didn't forget Mason. He didn't forget being broken. Then came the invitation, a golden envelope sealed in wax. The Westbridge Winter Gala, a gathering of elites, alumni, and donors. Luke opened it, smiled. "I'll go," he said, "and I won't go alone." He arrived in a black velvet suit, tailored to perfection. On his arm was Victoria Armand, Kingston's goddaughter, deadly, elegant, and rumored to have ruined 3 senators. Whispers followed them like perfume. "Is that Luke Miller? He looks like a prince." He looks like payback. Mason Greaves stood by the champagne table, still dripping in wealth, still drunk on power. He turned, caught sight of Luke, and froze. Luke smiled, cold, slow, knowing. Mason tried to sneer. "You look polished. Found a rich uncle?" Luke stepped closer. "Tonight's not about you, Mason, but you'll remember it for the rest of your life." An hour later, the lights dimmed. Principal Whitmore stood on stage, sweating under the spotlight. "We're proud to announce our new largest benefactor." The curtain dropped. The Luke Miller Foundation, forging greatness from the ground. The room gasped. Luke walked up, slow and measured. "I'm donating $20 million to rural scholarships for every kid who was told they weren't enough." He turned, eyes locking on to Mason. "And I'm also funding a new ethics course. Mason, you might find it useful." Laughter cracked through the air. Mason stood pale, humiliated, eyes dark with rage. Luke didn't look back. That night, in the back of the limo, Luke stared at the city lights. "I humiliated him," he said softly, "but it wasn't enough." Kingston nodded. "Then we go deeper." Luke's voice was quiet. "Let's ruin them all. Revenge is never loud. It's the whisper behind a locked door, the silence before a scream. The world had forgotten Luke Miller. Now it would remember him through what he destroyed. Weeks passed since the Winter Gala, but the aftershock never settled. Luke's name echoed through elite circles now, no longer a whisper of shame, but a warning. Mason Greaves became the talk of it all, mocked, undone, his arrogance shattered under a single speech. But Luke wasn't done. He didn't want Mason humiliated. He wanted him erased. It began with a file. A slim black folder slid across Luke's desk by a quiet assistant with no name. Inside, bank records, fake charities, overseas accounts, all tied to Greaves Holdings, the company run by Mason's father, Charles Greaves. The entire Greaves fortune rested on a tangled knot of tax evasion, front companies, and backroom deals. "Should I alert the authorities?" his assistant asked. Luke didn't smile. "Number will leak it." He chose the timing carefully. At midnight on a Tuesday, anonymous files began surfacing online, then spread like oil through every financial watchdog and news outlet. By morning, it was everywhere. Greaves Holdings under investigation for fraud. $400 million in assets frozen. Elite family linked to offshore crime ring. By noon, Luke was sipping coffee on his balcony while the world tore into Mason's family like wolves. Mason's father went silent. Their board members resigned in panic. The stock price cratered. The Greaves name, once untouchable, now made investors flinch. Mason didn't show up to Westbridge for 3 days. When he returned, he walked the halls like a ghost. The sneer was gone, his confidence hollow. Luke watched him from a distance, emotionless. But that wasn't enough. Public shame is temporary. Private collapse is permanent. Luke hired a discreet private investigator, someone ex-Mossad, cold and exact. Their task, dig into every Greaves family secret, and they found something, a hidden affair. Mason's father had a son, illegitimate, buried behind years of payoffs and non-disclosure agreements. The child had been locked away in a private school in Argentina, never acknowledged. Luke sent the truth in a sealed envelope to Mason's mother. 3 days later, she filed for divorce. 6 more, and she vanished from public life entirely. Mason's family wasn't just unraveling, it was bleeding. At school, Mason began spiraling. He lashed out at students, fought with teachers, shouted at his remaining friends. Detentions turned to suspensions. He showed up drunk to a history exam and vomited on the dean's desk. He wasn't feared anymore, he was pitied. Luke didn't speak to him, not once, just watched, studied, documented. Because the final blow wasn't public, it was personal. Late one night, Luke's phone buzzed. A single message. He's alone. The security guard let him in without a word. He found Mason sitting in the empty music hall, head in his hands, lights off. He didn't look up. Luke stood behind him, calm, silent. "You know it was me," Luke said finally. Mason didn't move, didn't speak. "Your company, your father, your mother, your future." Mason's voice cracked. "Why?" And Luke, without a shred of emotion, answered, "Because you made me walk out of this school like I was trash. Because you laughed when I bled. Because you took everything from me." A pause. "And now I'm returning the favor." Mason shook, but said nothing. Luke walked to the piano and pressed a single note, cold and hollow. "Consider this the first note of your requiem." Then he turned and left. Outside, the wind howled like it was cheering, and Luke, once the forgotten boy in dirty boots, climbed into a waiting car, eyes forward, heart still. The Greaves family was finished, but the game had just begun. Would you like Chapter 3? We can go bigger now. Luke begins assembling a private syndicate, the Forgotten, a covert alliance of dropouts, outcasts, and discarded minds. Together, they infiltrate elite systems, tech, finance, law, media. They don't just destroy lives, they replace them. Or, we can go deeper into Luke's own corruption. Power changes him. He starts testing moral lines, controlling more than just enemies, silencing dissent, becoming the thing Westbridge feared, but smarter, sharper, unstoppable. You choose, build the empire, or watch the boy become the monster.